Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Bukun Williams. Today is a different day entirely. I've always wanted to talk and today is one of those days that I'm going to do that. Anyways guys, this is the Conscious. I'm still trying to decide a name for this. It's supposed to be like, I think it's supposed to be like a podcast. But really, for me generally, this is an avenue where I would like to just express myself. And I'd like to also talk with people, talk with friends, about different topics ranging from tradition to culture to history, topics that will just open up our intellectual mind, help us, criticize ourselves. It's always, I feel like these are discussions that we're supposed to have, where we are today. Anyways, that aside, I'm drinking lemongrass tea. And I actually caught this lemongrass from like my backyard. I'm going to show you guys. So it's a very basic, very basic recipe that I do. I take lemongrass here and I just rinse it off, wash it off very well. And when I do that, I put it in a pot and I just boil it. Or if you have like a brewing pot, you just boil it and let it bleed. And when it bleeds out, some people add honey and stuff. But for me personally, I just boil it and then it just brings out this very beautiful aroma. Like the smell, it's almost like the best air freshener that you can have in the house, because I like to take things back to nature, if you get what I mean. So, and I feel like nature has everything that we need, in every way that we can really, really use. So when I just, cook lemongrass in the house, it just gives this very beautiful ambience in the house. Because sometimes I ask some people, when people say, oh, they went to get air freshener, I'm like, what is air freshener? What is fresh air? If you even think about it, fresh air is the best air, the air that is good for your lungs, that is good for your body, that is the best air. And I feel like that's the cleanest air. So if you're spraying something, then you're adding more chemicals into the atmosphere. So how can you be freshening the air? Why would you call that an air freshener? Anyways, I don't know how I got here from lemongrass, but anyways, I really love this tea. When I drink it, you can just breathe. There's so many other teas that I'm going to be featuring on this show because I'm a tea person and I've been brewing and I've been trying to make a lot of different types of teas. I'll be showing you guys how I make my oregano tea, or sometimes when I even make the ginger tea, and even sometimes a lot of mixtures and mint and a lot of styles. We'll be talking about those, everything. We'll be talking about all those things at some points in the show. But anyways, today I don't know really. I'm just here and I'm just introducing this show. I'm going to be interviewing people. I'm going to be bringing people on the show where we'll just have this interesting gist, because for me the creative process is something that needs to be discussed. So many people don't really share their ideas. They don't really share what's going on with them, and to actually be a creative, there's a lot going on behind the scenes to create that expression, and a lot of things that have to do with life in itself. How you wake up, what you do with your time, the kind of music you listen to, how do you get inspired as a creative, what do you do to actually wind down, because a lot of times when you talk about thinking about an idea, for me personally, a lot of times I actually do shoots in my head when I'm calm and chilling somewhere. Most people might even feel like, oh, this guy is not even busy, he's not doing anything. But to be honest, I may have a shoot and I already know, okay, I've seen the colors of what the model is going to wear, I've seen everything that's going to go on in that image, right? Before this picture. So sometimes in the night I could just be lying down and I'm just imagining it. I'm trying to visualize this thing because I'm very visual. I see things in images, so I can actually see it in my mind before if I go for the shoot. So I'm sitting down, I'm trying to flip everything in my mind. I'm looking at this model against a white background, and in my mind I kind of change it to a red background, or a green background. I'm trying to see how the idea really sits together. And all of this cannot really be done if I'm not really centered. If you think about it, if I'm worried about many things, even just bills, it may be difficult for me to be able to get into this creative energy. So I feel like there's so many things that we need to discuss as creatives, to just help people understand how to center themselves, how to wind down, how to understand how your process works. It's a very interesting process. And I feel like, where we are today, there's a lot going on. Anyways, today, the Conscious, Creative, and Thriving Podcast. That's the name I'm using for now. So you guys just brace up because there's a lot of beautiful things that we'll be talking about on this show. So don't go anywhere, I'm still here just a quick intro. Yeah, that was the quick intro to this one. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so welcome back. Yes, so what was I saying earlier? I like to make tea a lot, and I feel it's very good that you try to do that as well. I feel anything you do that takes you back to nature in some sense is actually a very good thing to do. I feel a lot of people tend to be boxed up in what is really happening all around them. We live in a society, in a world where a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that we have, a lot of approach that we take towards things tend to be very, They tend to be on the surface level. And a lot of times we don't tend to read in between the lines and even deeper into this, in a sense, into what we're doing and, why we're doing it. And there was a point where for me, I just started to realize that man, I have to take responsibility for myself to start with in terms of what I'm necessarily consuming, right? And based off of that, I started to decide ways that I can actually apply this process. And that brought me to a point where I used to take different types of teas, and I said, why don't I try to take them, make it actually a lot more natural, and let me take it, let me see how that's going to go. And since I started to do that, I feel like oh my God, I can't even stop anymore. That aside, point I'm trying to make is that there are a lot of things that we may not know, and until when you try, you realize that, oh my God, this is actually a better way to actually do things. So, I've grown up and I've lived in a society where we've been influenced by so many things in terms of general theories and ideas that apply to our society in itself. First of all, we're in Nigeria, in a very diverse society, extremely diverse society. We have over 250 tribes thereabouts. A lot of people don't tend to really understand or grasp these concepts that whenever they taught us in school that we have 3 major tribes in Nigeria, and it says the Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba, but that's just mentioning 3 out of 250 tribes. And when you even talk about tribes, I feel like you're even demeaning these people, because when you talk about colonization, all of that, or I'll say amalgamation to create Nigeria, that brought about a lot of people, a lot of, I would say, nations. So in Nigeria, I would first of all say that there are so many nations in this country, from the Yoruba, the Hausa, the Igbo. First of all, as they first of all say, they teach us in school, first of all. But no, there's still so many people. There's the Nupe, there's the South, people in the South, Efik, Ibibio, Urobo. There are people from the North, people who are not necessarily Hausa, because everybody tends to assume that everybody from the North is Hausa, and not necessarily. There's so many tribes up there. In just alone, there are over 15 ethnic groups. So really, if you actually begin to travel around Nigeria, you begin to notice that, this is a very diverse society. And then we've grown up in this society that is so diverse, and then there's all the political, there's all the history, there's everything going on, and it's developing a society that people that are trying to even just really understand the world they're living in. So it's been a very interesting dynamic living in this society. So for me, I like to, on this podcast, we're going to be exploring a lot of tradition and how it applies to us, and how we've even been influenced by even foreign traditions. To a very large extent, a huge part of our culture had to do with trying to emulate or copy some form of Stockholm syndrome energy. I'm trying to sieve my words in a way. I'm trying not to mention some things, but yeah, I feel a huge part of our culture was infiltrated and was influenced and in a certain way, and I'm not even going to blame people for that. Picasso once said that good artists copy, but great artists steal. And that necessarily, what that means in itself is that like you generally, there's another statement that says like it's mimicry is the best form of flattery. So when you copy something, it means you love it so much you're copying it. So some people see it as a compliment. So you're copying me, wow, okay, that is really nice. I'm so good, you're copying me. I feel like that is somewhere you should always want to get to as a creative, where you start to see people copying your style or copying your work, not infringing on your intellectual property. That's a separate topic in itself. But when you talk about people actually using your work as inspiration to develop something else, that is giving you vibes where, man, I'm doing things right. But yeah, when people start so when you talk about copying, I don't necessarily blame our society for just in a way copying, in a sense. But a huge amount of that culture was influenced, by that, and it's first of all gave us a sense of this non-belonging. Like we didn't necessarily own up to who we were. We didn't necessarily have so much pride in that sense. Yeah, and I see it like from a more general level in the society. Like I don't know, like in school then, in secondary school, there were times where if you spoke your native language, you get into trouble in school. I mean, I remember when I was in school, that used to make sense, but now it's like the most ridiculous thing ever. Like it doesn't even make any sense if you think about it. Like who am I? Like why can't I speak my own native language? Like come on, like what am I supposed to speak? Whose language? Is it the ones that have been decided by the colonizer? Is it the ones that have been decided by the government, or what exactly is it? I think that honestly, I think there's a lot of reprogramming that we need in our society today, and a lot of that has been coming. You can see it even in art, and art is very important. Like you see how you say Afrobeats to the world, like you're seeing Nigerian music going out there. The major reason why, one of the reasons why Nigerian music is even really going out there is because first of all, we're staying very authentic to ourselves, and because we're staying very authentic to ourselves, art can be related to when it's original, and we're also still influenced by foreign sound, but we're also, like you see, a lot of people are we're developing sound from our own source, if you get what I mean. So it's you can't stop it. It's going to blow up, and it's applying into so many different aspects of our artwork, and finding ourselves back to who we are originally is something I would really like to discuss and apply. So when you talk about tradition, that's some of the ideas that I want to explore. I'm going to be most likely inviting people who even have more depth into some specific traditions or some specific things that we want to talk about. I think that is going to be fun. And guys, if there's anything you want me to talk about, to be honest, like if there's any topic you want me to address, yes, just let me know in the comments, and more topics will be coming in. And the next episode, trust me, like it's going to be vibes, like on vibes. I'm going to be inviting more friends, and it's going to be, you're going to see everything that's going to happen. And anyways, that's, you guys just calm down, take your time. And yeah, I like history personally. I love history. So history is something I'm going to most likely, be exploring in a very creative way. A lot of my work, I try to apply historical inspiration. I try to take inspiration from historical data to actually create some of my work, like in terms of what really makes us who we are, in terms of our Africanness or our culture, or some of the things we used to wear in the past, or some of the figures or some of the artwork that we even had or we even have access to. So I like to research, go around, meet people, talk to people, go for art exhibitions, see what people are doing, and get inspired. So yeah, culture, history, oh my God, we're going to be digging deep into stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sure you guys are going to be having fun. But yeah, in the society that we are in today, my best advice, or I wouldn't say advice, my best approach, what I do personally to keep myself centered as a creative, is to build a process and a routine that works for me, and in the sense that I first of all make sure that my body is working. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily take notes that first of all, you have a mind which is very, it's extremely well. You have things you want to do, you have things in your head, you have a lot of things, but your physical body needs to be in a state of, I would say, a state where your brain can work properly. So let me explain it to you this way. So if a gazelle is eating grass, and at that point it's eating the grass and it's trying to make food for itself, and it's just there, chilling, vibing, eating grass. But the moment it sees a lion coming and the lion wants to come and attack it, it's going to stop all of that grass. Like, it's not time to eat. Like, we can't be taking food anymore. Like, this is survival mode right now. This is the real deal. Do you get that kind of thing? So the gazelle jumps up and boom, is just running all around the place, and the lion is chasing it, probably not, or whatever. And after a while, let's say like 15 minutes later, the gazelle gets to get away from the lion. The gazelle in no time will just start to go back to grass eating, and that is what it is. When it feels like it is safe, when it feels like it is calm and there's no problem anymore, it then can actually think about other things. And even we as human species, we tend to have things like that as well. We tend to have that type of energy, even though we can also like trigger some of these scenarios even just by our thoughts alone. But we need to actually find ways to get our body, that is our temple, that is our physical body, to a state where we are actually calm and we are actually centered, so that our brain can work and you can get inspired a lot. I do a lot of visualizations because as I create work, a lot of times, even when I have shoots, I like plan things in my head a lot. I do that a lot. So for example, I could have somebody that I want to shoot, and I already know what they want to wear. For example, I start to flip them in my mind of different types of backgrounds. For example, I might put a flower in the scene, I can remove the flower, put a different type of flower in the scene. I'm just trying to imagine it all in my head. You get, as much as I can. Sometimes I try to sketch it down, as much as I can again. But a lot of times I do a lot of this thinking, and somehow by the time I get to the shoots, I may not necessarily even do exactly what I thought about, but it also already has given me like a structure and like a guide to where I'm going. And obviously you have to keep yourself centered, and one of the ways is to build a routine for yourself, something that works for your physical body, the type of things you consume, the type of food you consume. Maybe you want to reduce on sugar, just to, like a lot of things. So, but I will talk about, body and our health and things that I do to kind of like keep myself healthy, keep myself having fun and all of that. But yeah, it's all a process, and I feel like the creative process is an all-encompassing process. It's a process of our life. Is really what is even the role? Why are you creating art? Why are you even here? Why are we even doing all of this? What is the purpose in itself? Why should we even be trying to live longer or live less? Have you ever thought about all these things? Like I usually, growing up, I used to just have so many random questions, things like I just want to talk about. Now these may not necessarily be my opinion, or it may not necessarily be what is the fact or what is right. It's just me exploring the idea that, okay, so if I come out of space now, for example, and I come out of the universe, like what is after that? or some random things like that, But yeah, I just feel like where we are today, it's the point where we've reached a point of critical thinking. As a human species, it's your responsibility to actually think for yourself. It's your responsibility. Your salvation is your responsibility. And when I say your salvation, I mean everything that has to do with who you are, your potential, your purpose, what you do with your life, the kind of people you meet, the kind of money you make, the kind of quality of life and that you live, the kind of impact or legacy, regardless of how small, whatever it is, it's all your responsibility. What you listen to, what you eat, what you wear, what you do, everything is all in your hand to decide. So on that note, I'll first of all say this is the Conscious and Creative and Thriving podcast. So yeah. There was a time I came across this statement that said, birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. It's crazy how a bird could have a potential to fly, And because it was conditioned to being in a cage, it has not explored the idea to fly. And it's a very similar experience to humans. You don't necessarily know what you don't know, in a sense. And what you don't know could be hurting you, and you still wouldn't know, you know. It's a very interesting concept. So I feel like sometimes it's good to like explore ideas. For me personally, you can't depend on your environment. Like you can't depend on what is given to you as fact or value. I could give you a very practical example. When it comes to information or say news or something like that, I tend to listen to news widely, like from different sources, so to speak, to actually get a proper grasp of what is going on. Because at the end of the day, who's saying the news? You know, who's the person saying it, and what does that person have to gain, or what is their bias? Which everybody could have a bias, and as a creative, that is what it is, the creative bias. And the creative bias in itself is your story. As a photographer now, for example, personally as a photographer, if I am taking a picture, you know, or I'm trying to create an image in a particular scenario where a couple of things are occurring, like say a man is about to jump up and say shoot somebody else in that image. So he jumps up, he shoots the person, and yeah, that's the story, right? But if I come into the scene as the photographer and I'm trying to take an image of that scene, I can tell the story in whichever way I want to tell it. I could take a picture of just the person who's been shot without showing who shot the person, and you know, lie about who shot the person, or just take a picture of who shot the girl without showing the girl and say he was doing shooting practice and it was just an animal he was shooting, it was nobody. Or I could even take a picture of both of them and actually show that yeah, he shot the girl, but yeah, it was just tomato ketchup, it's a film set, guys, it's a lie, but maybe it's reality. You know, at the end of the day, I as a photographer or whoever is creating that story has a bias in a sense. So when it comes to information, you have to like dig up from so many places, right? And then you have to like bring it all together to create an informed idea. So I could give another perfect example. Imagine going to court with a case, Mr. A versus Mr. B. Now, Mr. A and Mr. B go to court, right? And Mr. A then says, "My lord, Mr. B slapped me," right? And the judge just looks at it and says, "Wow, Mr. B, you slapped Mr. A. You have been sentenced to 10 years in prison." No, don't you think that wouldn't make sense? Like, what kind of judge does that? No judge does that. First thing the judge is going to do is say, "Oh, Mr. B, did you slap Mr. A, or why did you slap Mr. A?" And he's like, "Oh, I slapped Mr. A because earlier in the day, Mr. A stole my money." And now the story becomes, okay, Mr. A stole your money. Mr. A, you stole his money. Oh yeah, I actually did not steal his money, but I took that. And then by the time you start asking questions, you start to understand what is going on. It starts to expand the topic. And then after that is when you can actually make an informed opinion about something. So when it comes to information out there, you have to gather it. Like you're responsible. Like if you have an opinion about whatever it is, it's your responsibility. That opinion is, you're responsible to that opinion. You know, and an opinion cannot be argued. So when we talk about opinions now, there are differences. Yeah, I like to, when it comes to critically thinking, I like to separate them. There's a difference between an opinion and a fact, right? Now, a fact has to be based off of something, which can still be argued whether it's fact or not, but a fact actually at least has some form of reference. So, but an opinion is like gathered references, how it plays in my mind, how the chemicals mix in my brain, and what I see to be based off of my own thinking or my own conditioning or the way I think, right? And that's an opinion. An opinion cannot be argued. An opinion can be explored. I can explore your opinion, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree with it, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to make sense to me, but it doesn't mean I have to say doesn't mean I have to demean or condemn your opinion because it's an opinion. But when you talk about facts, it's a separate thing entirely. Do you get what I mean? Facts are more tangible in a sense. So when you talk about, you know, a creative process, it's like we're playing with opinions. We're diving into opinions and seeing what can be found in it. In the process of jumping into opinions is where you find facts. And for this show, that is really, really what we're going to be exploring. A lot of interesting opinions of different people as regards different topics, as regards different ways to do different things. I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot of fun on this creative podcast. And yeah, I can see a lot of beautiful things happening. All I can say is that stay woke, stay fresh, stay happy, stay very strong. When I say strong, your mind and your body has to be strong. So maybe go to the gym, work out a bit, get your blood pumping. And at the same time, eat good food. Stack up with fruits, vegetables. They'll help you a lot. You could drink lemongrass tea. It's amazing. You could drink lemongrass tea and you can, just have fun, yeah? And you see that when you're beginning to have fun, your mind begins to come, to a place of peace. And from that peace, you can create a lot of beautiful work. As an artist out there, you have a purpose. There's a reason why you can do what you can do. And your gift is just there, The world is waiting for that gift that you have to give. And I hope through this podcast or through this, channel and avenue, we can maybe inspire you in some way, or just, at least prick you in a bit. So just jump out of that. Come back, wake up, come out of that matrix that you're in and start to live your true purpose. I hope we can make you and help you live your true purpose. This is the Conscious, Creative and Thriving podcast. See you in the next one. My name is Ibukun Williams. I hope you guys had fun. If you did, let me know what you think in the comments below. You can subscribe to this channel and let me know your thoughts, and I just want to, relate with you and I just want to talk to you. So please like the video, subscribe for more, and turn on your post notification buttons to get notified when I post those new videos. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.